Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're drifting into a side of history that was never meant to be remembered out loud. A quieter world behind crowns and banners, where kings, warriors, and entire civilizations searched for the same thing you might be searching for right now: relief. We often imagine the past as loud, full of battles, proclamations, and power. But beneath the noise, history whispers a different story. One of heavy crowns softened by strange remedies, of armies undone not by enemies, but by rain and exhaustion, of walls built to hold chaos back, and of games invented not for glory, but so violence could finally rest. From medieval royals escaping their own minds, to Roman legions dissolving in forest fog, to the long breath of the Great Wall, and finally to a dusty track in ancient Greece where wars paused and bodies were allowed to move freely under the sun. This is not a story about excess or scandal. It's a story about pressure and the many quiet ways humans have tried to survive it. So before you get comfortable, take a gentle moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if these deep sleep history stories help you find peace, sleep better, or simply reflect on our shared journey through time. Now, close your eyes, let the world slow down, and allow history to carry you somewhere softer tonight. Imagine, if you will, the feeling of waking beneath a ceiling you did not choose, surrounded by walls that do not belong to you, wearing a crown that presses not only on the head, but on the breath itself. Medieval royalty did not live in freedom, they lived in performance. Every step was watched, every word weighed, every silence interpreted. The gold was real, yes, but so was the loneliness. The velvet itched, the rituals never ended. And beneath the painted smiles and formal gestures, there was a quieter truth history rarely lingers on. Many kings and queens were exhausted long before they were ever defeated. This is where our story begins. Not with decadence or scandal, but with pressure, a slow, grinding pressure that turns power into a cage. When we speak of medieval history, we often imagine discipline, faith, and iron resolve. Yet the human body, no matter how royal, responds to stress in familiar ways. Sleepless nights, racing thoughts, fears that cannot be confessed aloud. In a world without modern medicine, therapy, or even privacy, relief had to come from somewhere else. And so, across courts and empires, rulers quietly discovered substances that softened the edges of reality, not to celebrate, not to rebel, but simply to rest. This was not the loud intoxication of festivals. This was the gentle haze of survival. A way to leave the throne room without ever standing up. Charles VI of France, remembered cruelly as Charles the Mad, did not seek madness, he sought silence. In moments when his mind fractured under belief and terror, when he was convinced his body was made of glass and any touch might shatter him, soothing mixtures of wine, herbs, and powdered minerals became a fragile anchor. They did not cure him, they comforted him, and comfort in a medieval palace was rare currency. Across the Mediterranean, Ottoman rulers faced a different but equally relentless strain. Endless campaigns, political intrigue, the constant hum of war councils and whispered betrayals. For some, a pipe of opium offered something no general could promise: stillness. A soft pause in a world that never stopped demanding decisions. This was not indulgence, it was anesthesia for the soul. When power removes your ability to step away, the mind finds its own exits. And here lies the quiet thread that binds these stories together. Before rebellion, before walls, before grand games and ceremonies, there is always the same question: how does a human endure pressure when escape is forbidden? Some float inward, some numb the noise, some drift briefly into warmth when the stone halls grow too cold. This chapter is not about judging medieval royals for their vices. It is about recognizing them, about seeing that beneath the crowns were nervous systems no different from ours, struggling under expectations that never slept. In the haze of wine, herbs, and smoke, we glimpse something deeply human, not excess, but fatigue, not corruption, but coping. And as we move deeper into this night, remember this feeling, the quiet desire to step outside the self just for a moment, because this same desire will soon reappear, not in a goblet or a pipe, but on a battlefield, in stone walls stretching across continents, and in arenas where bodies move so the mind can finally breathe. For now, let the crown grow heavy. Let the haze soften the edges. History tonight is not shouting, it is whispering. But the haze, as comforting as it may be, never lasts forever. There comes a moment, quietly and without announcement, when numbness fails to hold back reality. For some medieval rulers, the warm fog of wine, herbs, and smoke was enough to survive another day. For others, it became a reminder of something deeper and more dangerous, the realization that no substance could truly loosen the grip of power once it had closed around the mind. This is where the story subtly shifts, because not all escape is inward, and not all relief comes from forgetting. In the long nights after the banquets were cleared and the candles burned low, some rulers began to sense that the true source of their suffering was not fear, nor madness, nor exhaustion, but confinement. A life lived entirely inside expectation, a role that could never be removed. The crown did not simply weigh on the head, it rewrote the self. And when the haze lifted, even briefly, it left behind an unsettling clarity, a question that no potion could answer. What if the problem was not the pain, but the throne itself? Medieval courts were designed to appear solid, eternal, and divinely ordered. Yet beneath the stone and ceremony, they were fragile ecosystems of loyalty and threat. A ruler could be surrounded by hundreds and still be utterly alone. Trust was rationed, vulnerability was forbidden. In such an environment, intoxicants were not merely comforts, they were signals, quiet admissions that the human mind was straining against its limits. And sometimes that strain did not soften into surrender. Sometimes it hardened into resolve. History often separates indulgence from rebellion, as though they belong to different moral worlds. But when viewed through the lens of pressure, they sit on the same spectrum. Both are responses to an unbearable weight. One dulls it, the other seeks to break it. And between these two poles lies the turning point of our chapter, the moment when escape stops being about floating away and begins to feel like the need to step outside the system entirely, not to forget power, but to confront it. This transition rarely announces itself with drama. It begins as restlessness, a subtle irritation with ritual, a growing discomfort with the routines meant to stabilize rule. The mind, once soothed by haze, starts asking dangerous questions in the quiet. Why must it be this way? Who decided this role was sacred? What happens if I refuse? For medieval royalty, such thoughts were treasonous even when unspoken. yet they arose all the same. Because the human desire for agency does not disappear simply because it is inconvenient. And so while some rulers leaned deeper into numbness, others found that silence sharpened their awareness rather than dulled it. They began to notice the machinery of power, the way laws were enforced, the way borders were drawn, the way obedience was manufactured through fear and repetition. The Haze, once a refuge, became a contrast, a reminder of how unnatural their waking world had become. And here, gently, we prepare to leave the banquet hall. The perfumes fade, the cups are set down, the body sobers, but the insight remains. This is the quiet hinge of history, the moment when escape transforms. From chemical comfort to ideological tension, from inward drifting to outward movement. In the chapters that follow, we will meet figures who did not seek to soften reality, but to challenge it, who did not want silence, but space. Their escape would not come from herbs or smoke, but from resistance, from walls built to contain fear, and from rituals designed to release it safely. But all of it begins here, in the realization that numbness has limits, that even the deepest haze cannot permanently protect a human mind from a life it no longer consents to live. Rest now in this transition. Let the shift be slow. History does not turn abruptly, it drifts, and when it moves, it carries the quiet exhaustion of those who could no longer endure in silence. There is a quiet moment, rarely recorded, when endurance transforms into awareness. It does not arrive with banners or declarations. It arrives in the stillness after relief has worn thin. For medieval royalty, this moment often came not during chaos, but during calm. The haze had done its work. The body had rested. The noise had softened. And in that softened space, a new clarity emerged, a realization both simple and unsettling. The problem was not merely exhaustion, it was enclosure. To rule was to be surrounded, yet trapped. Bound by bloodlines, divine narratives, and traditions older than memory, rulers inherited not just crowns, but destinies that left little room for consent. When escape inward failed to restore peace, the mind began to test a more dangerous idea. What if freedom was not found by drifting away, but by pushing back? This thought did not always lead to rebellion in the dramatic sense. Often it manifested as subtle resistance, a reluctance to perform rituals with conviction, a growing impatience with councils that spoke endlessly yet changed nothing, a quiet fascination with those who lived outside the palace walls, governed by harsher lives but freer choices. Medieval history tends to glorify power as agency, yet the lived experience of royalty reveals the opposite. The higher the position, the fewer the exits. In this paradox, intoxicants served as early indicators of fracture. They marked the point at which the inner world could no longer align with the outer role. But fracture does not always mean collapse. Sometimes it signals reorientation. Across different courts, from Europe to the Near East, we begin to sense a shift. The desire to escape ceases to be about comfort and becomes about identity. Who am I beneath this title? Whose rules am I enforcing, and at what cost to myself? These questions are dangerous not because they incite violence, but because they dissolve certainty. And certainty was the true currency of medieval rule. Without it, obedience weakened, loyalty thinned, the system trembled. This is why many rulers were permitted vices, but forbidden doubt. You could numb yourself,
but you could not question the structure that made numbing necessary. Yet doubt persisted. It spread quietly, not through proclamations, but through contrast. The contrast between the warmth of Haze and the cold precision of duty. Between the brief relief of forgetting and the enduring discomfort of returning. Over time, this contrast sharpened perception. Some rulers began to recognize patterns, the way borders constrained not just enemies, but themselves. The way laws created order by denying complexity. The way tradition demanded sacrifice without offering meaning. In this recognition, the nature of escape transformed again. It was no longer about leaving consciousness, it was about reclaiming it. To remain awake, to feel fully, even if that feeling was unrest. This is the threshold we now approach, the point where the desire to float gives way to the desire to stand. Not yet in open defiance, but in internal alignment. The recognition that peace cannot be borrowed indefinitely from substances or rituals. It must be negotiated with reality itself. In the next movements of our story, we will see how this negotiation unfolds beyond palace walls. How individuals, shaped by systems they did not choose, begin to test those systems. Some will do so through rebellion and warfare, others through architecture and law, others still through ritualized competition, transforming conflict into spectacle. But all of these paths share a common origin, a moment of awakening after numbness, a decision, conscious or not, to stop drifting and begin orienting. As you rest here, notice how gently history turns, not with explosions, but with fatigue giving way to focus, with the quiet realization that escape inward was only a pause, not a solution. The human spirit, even when crowned, seeks not just relief, but coherence. And when coherence cannot be found within the throne, it looks outward, toward the edges of the known world, where resistance first takes shape.
At the far edge of comfort, where numbness no longer soothes and awareness refuses to sleep, a final tension emerges. It is here, balanced delicately between endurance and action, that medieval royalty confronted a truth few were prepared to name. Escape, once a private act of survival, had quietly become a question of responsibility. To continue drifting inward was to accept the system as inevitable. To turn outward was to risk everything the crown promised to protect. This is the silent dilemma that closes our first chapter. Not every ruler chose the same answer. Many returned to the Haze again and again because familiarity felt safer than uncertainty. But others lingered at this edge, sensing that the pressure they carried was not merely personal, but structural, that it did not originate within their minds, but within the worlds they governed. In this realization, escape transformed one last time. It was no longer about relief, nor rebellion, but about alignment, about whether one's inner sense of truth could coexist with inherited power. Medieval history often frames change as sudden, driven by battles or decrees. Yet the most consequential shifts begin invisibly, inside individuals who recognize that obedience and identity have drifted too far apart. For a crowned ruler, this recognition was especially dangerous. To question the order was to question divine legitimacy itself. And yet, questioning persisted, in whispers, in pauses before decisions, in the growing discomfort of performing authority without belief. This discomfort did not always lead to immediate action. Often it produced stillness, a watchful stillness, the kind that listens more than it speaks, the kind that studies patterns rather than reacting to them. From this stillness, a new form of escape took shape,
Not flight, but repositioning. Not forgetting, but remembering who one was before the role hardened around them. It is from this mental posture that figures of open resistance eventually emerge. Not impulsively, but deliberately, having first understood the cost of silence and then the cost of awareness. This is why our story cannot leap directly from intoxicated courts to open rebellion without passing through this threshold. Because resistance, when it truly matters, is not born from chaos, it is born from clarity. A clarity forged slowly, under weight, when all other forms of escape have been tested and found insufficient. As we prepare to leave the palaces and banquet halls of this chapter, notice how quiet the transition feels. There is no announcement, no declaration of war, only a subtle turning of attention outward, toward borders, toward systems, toward the lives of those who live beyond royal walls, shaped by rules they did not write. In the next chapter, we will meet a man raised within empire who learned to see it from the outside, a figure who understood Roman power intimately, yet chose to stand against it. His story is not one of intoxication, but of awakening, and yet it is inseparable from what we have explored here. Because before swords are lifted, before walls are built or games are invented, there is always this moment, the edge of the crown, where escape stops being something done to oneself and becomes something done to history. Rest here at that edge. Let the night remain calm. The noise of courts fades behind us. Ahead lies the forest, the frontier, and the quiet preparation of defiance. But for now, there is only stillness, and the understanding that even the most powerful lives begin to change not with action, but with a refusal to drift any further. As the night deepens and the palace grows quiet, something subtle settles over our first chapter. Not resolution, but recognition. By now, we have wandered through heavy crowns, blurred banquets, and minds seeking refuge in warmth and haze. Yet beneath every softened edge lies a pattern that history repeats with remarkable patience. When power becomes unbearable, humans do not immediately resist it. They endure it. They adapt. They soothe themselves in whatever ways are permitted, invisible, or quietly tolerated. Medieval royalty were not unique in this. They were simply trapped in it more visibly. Their escape did not begin as rebellion. It began as ritual, as repetition, as nights that felt easier than days. Wine poured not for celebration, but for relief. Herbs prepared not for curiosity, but for calm. Smoke rising not to announce excess, but to muffle thought. Over time, these acts formed a rhythm, a private rhythm that allowed the public role to continue unchanged. And this is where the story grows more delicate. Because when escape becomes a routine, it stops being an interruption. It becomes part of the system itself. Courts adjusted around it. Advisors tolerated it. History rebranded it as eccentricity, madness, or decadence, anything but what it truly was, a coping mechanism sustained by structure. In this way, the Haze did not challenge power, it preserved it. The throne remained, the rituals continued, the pressure stayed intact, and the individual, soothed just enough to survive, drifted on. This is the quiet tragedy of the first form of escape. It works, just enough. It prevents collapse, but also postpones change. It allows suffering to continue without forcing confrontation. For many medieval rulers, this was not a failure of character, but a reflection of circumstance. When stepping away is forbidden, numbing becomes reasonable. Yet history teaches us that patterns, once established, eventually reveal their cost. The cost is time. Years lived without alignment, decisions made from fatigue rather than clarity. empires guided by rulers who were present in body but distant in spirit. And still, the night continues. Somewhere between the third cup and the final candle, awareness flickers again, a recognition that the relief does not last, that the morning always returns, that the crown waits unchanged, heavy as ever. This is the final drift before dawn, the moment just before the mind begins the sense that survival is no longer enough, that something deeper is required. Not necessarily rebellion, not yet, but a shift in orientation, a readiness to question whether endurance itself has become a form of surrender. As this chapter closes, we are not meant to judge these figures harshly. We are meant to understand them, to see that their haze was not weakness, but an early signal, a sign that the structures they inhabited demanded more than a human nervous system could sustainably give. And this understanding is essential because it reframes everything that follows. When resistance appears in history, it does not erupt from nowhere. It grows from long nights of coping, from repeated attempts to soften reality that ultimately fail to satisfy the need for meaning. In the chapters ahead, escape will take new shapes. It will harden into strategy. It will rise into walls and borders. It will transform into ritualized struggle and collective release. But it always carries this origin within it, a human being, overwhelmed by pressure, trying first to float away before learning to stand. Let this be the last image of our opening chapter, a palace at rest, a ruler awake, staring into the quiet, aware that tomorrow will require the same performance. And beneath that awareness, a barely formed thought. What if enduring is no longer the same as living? Rest with that question. Dawn will answer it differently, depending on who listens.
Let us leave the stone walls behind now and step into a world that does not care about empires. It is the year 9 of the Common Era, and the rain has already forgotten how long it has been falling. Drop after drop sinks into the dark soil of the Teutoburg forest, turning paths into mud and certainty into doubt. The air smells of pine, wet leaves, and metal slowly losing its shine. This is not the world of marble columns or straight roads. This is a world that breathes, shifts, and closes in. And somewhere within it stands Arminius, not as a legend, not yet as a symbol, but as a man who has waited long enough to understand what patience truly means. Arminius knew Rome intimately. He had walked its roads, spoken its language, worn its armor. He had learned how the empire thought, how it moved, how it trusted order to protect it from uncertainty. Rome believed the world could be straightened, measured, and controlled, and for a long time it was right. But here, under endless rain, those beliefs begin to soften. The forest does not respond to commands, it absorbs them. Roman soldiers march forward, sandals sinking with each step, their formation tightening, not from discipline, but from unease. The rain dampens their cloaks, weighs down their shields, blurs the edges of their vision. Sounds carry strangely here. A snapped twig feels louder than a shouted order. Arminius does not rush, he listens. He allows the rain to do what swords cannot. This is the quiet difference between domination and understanding. Where Rome seeks to impose its will, Arminius lets the land speak first. The forest narrows, trees press closer, paths disappear. What was once a confident column becomes a stretched line of individuals, each man aware of his own breath, his own fear.
The empire, so powerful in open fields, begins to feel fragile when surrounded by shadow and soundless movement. This is not chaos for chaos's sake, it is deliberate disorientation. Arminius is not escaping pressure the way the kings of our first chapter did. He is redirecting it. He understands that the Roman mind expects clarity, visibility, and control, so he offers none of these. Instead, he offers waiting. The rain becomes a companion, the mud becomes a teacher. Hours stretch, then days. Fatigue settles deeper than armor ever could. And in this slow unraveling, something important happens. The Roman soldiers begin to feel what many rulers felt beneath their crowns, the loss of certainty. When certainty fades, power weakens. This is the hidden lesson of Teutoburg. Not that Rome was defeated by superior force, but that it was undone by an environment it could not command and a man who refused to hurry history along. Arminius stands still because he understands that escape does not always mean retreat. Sometimes it means letting the storm continue until the system built to avoid storms collapses under its own rigidity. As rain continues to fall, night deepens, the forest holds its breath, and the empire, far from home, realizes too late that order is not the same as resilience. Rest here in the sound of rain on leaves and armor. This is not yet the moment of battle. This is the moment before realization turns irreversible, where patience becomes destiny.
The rain does not stop. It never announces itself as an enemy, yet it slowly reshapes everything it touches. What was firm ground becomes uncertain. What was movement becomes effort. For the Roman legions deep in the Teutoburg forest, this is when unease turns into something heavier. Not fear yet, but the awareness that progress has slowed in ways no command can correct. Shields grow heavier with each step. Armor clings to the body like a second skin soaked in cold. The proud rhythm of marching dissolves into irregular pauses, each man adjusting to mud that pulls back as much as it allows forward motion. Rome is built on momentum. Roads, supply lines, formations, everything depends on forward certainty. But here, certainty sinks quietly beneath the surface. Arminius understands this better than anyone watching from the trees. He does not strike immediately. He waits, because this is not a battle meant to be won quickly. It is a pressure meant to accumulate. The forest narrows, not violently, but persistently. Paths that once seemed reliable bend and disappear. Visibility shrinks to the length of a few trees, then less. Orders are given, but they arrive softened by rain, delayed by distance, absorbed by leaves and mist. Men begin to rely more on instinct than instruction, and instinct in unfamiliar territory rarely favors the invader. This is the moment when the trap truly begins to close, not with sudden violence, but with disorientation. Rome has always defeated its enemies by imposing clarity, by defining the battlefield, by deciding where chaos is allowed to exist. Arminius reverses this entirely. He allows confusion to spread without direction. The legions are not surrounded by visible enemies, but by uncertainty itself. Every sound could be nothing or everything. A branch snapping might be wind, or it might be a signal. Sleep becomes shallow, rest becomes incomplete. Fatigue creeps in not as exhaustion, but as erosion. Confidence thins, trust in formation weakens, and in this slow unraveling, something deeper happens.
The Roman soldiers begin to experience what many rulers experienced beneath their crowns in earlier chapters, the realization that structure alone cannot protect the mind, that order, when removed from its ideal environment, becomes brittle. The forest does not need to defeat Rome directly, it only needs to refuse cooperation. Arminius moves with this refusal. He understands that escape, at this scale, is no longer about an individual stepping away. It is about a system being denied its usual exits. Rome cannot retreat easily. It cannot advance confidently. It cannot see clearly enough to reassert control. The reign continues its quiet work, dissolving timelines and expectations. Days blur together. The legions feel suspended between decisions, unable to resolve their situation. And in this suspension, fear finally arrives, not as panic, but as realization. The realization that they are no longer shaping events, they are responding to them. This is the true closing of the trap, not when weapons strike, but when agency slips away. Arminius has already escaped Rome by this point, not by fleeing its reach, but by refusing to play by its rules. He lets the empire exhaust itself against conditions it cannot dominate. And as the forest breathes and the rain falls, the soldiers begin to understand something that history would echo for centuries. An empire is strongest when the world behaves as expected. When it does not, strength becomes weight. Rest here in this slow descent. Listen to the imagined rain. Feel how gently inevitability settles in. The trap does not snap shut, it sinks. And by the time it is felt, it is already too late to step free.
There is a moment when pressure no longer feels like resistance, but like gravity. It does not push back, it pulls downward. For the Roman legions in the Teutoburg forest, this moment arrives quietly, almost gently, as though the world itself has decided to sit heavier on their shoulders. The rain still falls, but now it is no longer noticed as sound. It becomes texture. It coats everything: armor, skin, thought. What once felt temporary begins to feel permanent. Marching is no longer an action, but a burden repeated out of habit. Orders still exist, but they arrive stripped of confidence, spoken more to reassure than to command. This is how legions begin to break, not through sudden violence, but through accumulated weight. Rome trained its soldiers to endure pain, fear, and loss. What it did not train them for was meaninglessness. In open battle, suffering has direction. In siege, hardship has purpose. But here, in endless rain and narrowing forest, effort leads nowhere. Progress dissolves into repetition. The same steps, the same mud, the same uncertainty. The human mind, even one disciplined by empire, struggles to endure without narrative. Arminius understands this intimately. He does not need to overwhelm the legions. He needs only to deny them resolution. Small attacks emerge from the trees, brief and imprecise, never offering a clear enemy to face. Then silence returns. The forest closes again. The legions attempt to regroup, but regrouping requires space, and space no longer belongs to them. Formation loosens, command fragments. Each man becomes more aware of his own body than of the unit around him. This is the true fracture, not the loss of numbers, but the loss of cohesion. Rome's strength was never just steel, it was synchronization. When that synchronization fails, strength turns inward, pressing against itself. Shields collide awkwardly, movements slow, trust erodes. The legions are no longer advancing through the forest, they are being absorbed by it. And with absorption comes resignation, not surrender,
but a subtle shift in expectation. The belief that this march will end gives way to the fear that it will not. Soldiers begin to understand that survival, not victory, has become the unspoken goal. This mirrors the inner experience of many rulers we encountered earlier, trapped beneath crowns they could not remove. The difference here is scale. What once occurred within individual minds now unfolds across thousands of bodies. The escape routes are gone. There is no haze to soften the edges, no ritual to repeat until morning, only endurance stretched beyond meaning. This is where collapse becomes inevitable, not because the Romans are weak, but because the conditions no longer allow their strengths to function. Arminius does not celebrate this moment. He does not rush to claim it. He waits, because collapse accelerates itself once it begins. The forest, the rain, the darkness, they all cooperate without effort. And in this cooperation lies a quiet truth of history. Systems fail not at attacked head-on, but when their assumptions are rendered useless. Rome assumed visibility, assumed predictability, assumed that discipline could overcome environment. In Teutoburg, each assumption sinks deeper into mud. The legions break not in a single instant, but across hours that feel like days. Exhaustion replaces strategy. Fear replaces cohesion. The empire, so accustomed to shaping outcomes, is reduced to reacting to sensations. Cold, wetness, sound, silence. This is the final stage before the fall becomes undeniable. Rest here in this slow unraveling. Feel how gently inevitability moves. The breaking of the legions is not a scream, it is a long exhale, and once it begins, it cannot be inhaled back.
Eventually, the rain eases, not suddenly, but with the same patience it showed while falling. The forest exhales, leaves drip quietly, mud settles into stillness. What remains is not victory in the Roman sense, nor celebration in the tribal sense. What remains is silence, a silence so complete that it feels heavier than the storm itself. This is the aftermath of Teutoburg, not a battlefield filled with banners and speeches, but a landscape absorbing what has just occurred. For the Roman Empire, the loss is immediate yet difficult to comprehend. Legions that once moved with certainty have vanished into the green. Roads no longer promise safety beyond the Rhine. Expansion pauses, not because Rome lacks ambition, but because it has encountered a limit it cannot reason with. For Arminius, this moment is not triumph, it is confirmation. Confirmation that resistance does not need spectacle to be effective, that patience, environment, and timing can undo even the most disciplined force. He stands within the quiet, not as a conqueror, but as someone who has stepped fully outside the gravity of empire. The escape he chose was not intoxication, nor numb endurance. It was alignment. Alignment between land, identity, and intention. And this alignment changes the direction of history without announcing itself loudly. Rome does not immediately fall. Empires rarely do. Instead, they adjust. They retreat inward. They rewrite narratives to preserve dignity. Teutoburg becomes a wound spoken of cautiously, a lesson wrapped in restraint. The forest becomes a boundary, not just geographic, but psychological. This is the power of aftermath. It reshapes future decisions more than the event itself. Soldiers returning from the north carry stories not of glorious defeat, but of confusion, rain, and loss without clarity. Commanders learn that order has conditions, that control is contextual, that some worlds resist being straightened.
And so Rome begins to understand what many individuals understood beneath their crowns. Escape, when chosen consciously, alters the structure around it, not by destroying it outright, but by revealing its fragility. Arminius fades from the center of our view here, not because he is unimportant, but because his role is complete. He has demonstrated that stepping outside a system can redefine its limits. The forest remains, the rain returns from time to time, and history carries forward with a new awareness etched quietly into its path. This is how great shifts often occur, not through loud endings, but through subtle reorientation. The night after Teutoburg is calm. Fires burn low. The sounds of armor and marching are gone. What lingers is a different rhythm, one that belongs to the land rather than to an empire. Rest here, in that calm. Let the silence settle. It is in silence that history often makes its most enduring decisions.
So long after the rain has passed and the forest has returned to its quiet routines, the shadow of Teutoburg remains, not as a story retold loudly, but as a hesitation woven into future choices. Rome does not speak of the forest often, yet it feels it everywhere, in the way borders are redrawn, in the way commanders are cautioned, in the way ambition pauses to consider terrain rather than destiny. This is how escape evolves once it has altered history. It stops being an act and becomes a memory that informs structure. For the empire, Teutoburg becomes a lesson etched not in triumph, but in restraint. Expansion northward slows. The idea that discipline alone can tame any land quietly dissolves. Rome begins to turn its gaze inward, strengthening what it already controls, rather than chasing what resists control. This shift is subtle, almost invisible to those living through it, yet profound in its consequences. The empire survives not by pushing further, but by consolidating, by drawing lines, by deciding where order will end and uncertainty will begin. And in this decision, we recognize the final transformation of escape. What began as individuals numbing themselves beneath crowns has now reshaped imperial strategy. Arminius himself fades into complexity here, celebrated, contested, remembered differently depending on who speaks his name, but the forest he chose remains unchanged. It stands as proof that resistance does not always need to conquer. Sometimes it only needs to endure long enough to be remembered. This is the quiet power of Teutoburg's long shadow. It does not shout its victory, it whispers caution. It teaches empires to fear environments they cannot dominate. And in doing so, it plants the seed for a different response to pressure. If expansion invites collapse, then perhaps control requires boundaries. Perhaps safety lies not in movement, but in walls. This is where our story begins to turn once more. From rain-soaked forests to stone and mortar, from chaos resisted through patience to chaos prevented through structure. Rome's lesson is mirrored elsewhere in the world, in civilizations that observe pressure and respond not with retreat, but with containment. The escape from vulnerability becomes the construction of permanence. The desire to never feel lost again hardens into architecture. And so, as we leave the forest behind, notice how history carries its experiences forward, not as repetition, but as adaptation. The night grows calm. The sound of rain is replaced by the imagined scrape of stone on stone, boundaries rising where uncertainty once flowed. Rest here in this transition.
the long shadow has done its work. Ahead, humanity will answer pressure not by drifting, not by resisting, but by building. Thousands of miles away, and several centuries before the reign of Teutoburg ever soaked Roman armor, a different sound filled the air of northern China. Not rain and not forest breath, but wind. A dry, patient wind that moved endlessly across open plains, carrying dust, silence, and distance. Here there was no place to hide, no trees to close in, no shadows deep enough to swallow an army, only horizon after horizon, stretching flat and exposed. And within this vast openness, a new response to pressure was taking shape. If the forest taught humans how to resist, this land taught them how to contain. Before the Great Wall became a ribbon of stone winding across mountains, it was something far more humble and far more intimate. Earth, yellow soil pressed between hands. The Qin Wall was not born from beauty or pride. It was born from fear refined into routine. Fear of movement, fear of invasion, fear of instability traveling unchecked across open land. Qin Shi Huang did not seek escape in haze, nor resistance in ambush. He sought certainty. And certainty in this landscape meant repetition. The work began not with a grand declaration, but with a simple action repeated endlessly. Scoop the earth, mix it with water, with rice gruel, with fibers that bind. Pour it into wooden frames, lift the heavy rammers. Thump, thump, thump. Each strike compresses the soil a little more, squeezing air out, forcing particles into obedience. Over time, the earth forgets that it was loose. It becomes wall. This rhythm was the true architecture, not lines on maps, but hours stacked upon hours, days pressed into weeks, millions of small motions replacing the chaos of open space with the predictability of layers. This is where escape takes its hardest form. No drifting inward, no stepping outside the system. Instead, the system thickens. The wall grows not because one strike is powerful, but because it is repeated without question. Workers do not need to see the whole structure, they only need to know the motion. In this way, control becomes hypnotic. The mind narrows, the body follows rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. The vastness of the plains is answered not with imagination, but with compression. Qin Shi Huang's vision was not of conquest beyond the horizon, but of silence within it, a silence enforced by mass, weight, and continuity. The wall was meant to stop sound as much as movement, to break the rhythm of galloping hooves before they reached settled fields, to reassure those behind it that the world had an edge. After Teutoburg, Rome learned to pause. Here, China learned to build. This is the shared lesson of pressure across civilizations. When movement feels dangerous, humans choose stillness made permanent. When uncertainty spreads too freely, they harden boundaries. The Qin Wall is not merely architecture, it is psychology shaped into earth. It tells us that when escape fails and resistance exhausts itself, control promises peace, not because it removes fear, but because it fixes it in place. As the wind continues to sweep across the plains, the wall rises quietly. No cheering crowds, no victory songs, only the steady sound of labor repeated until the land itself remembers the shape humans demand of it. Rest here in that repetition. Feel how the rhythm replaces thought. This is not a story of freedom, it is a story of containment. And from this containment, an empire hopes to finally sleep.
If you step closer now, closer than the maps and the sweeping views allow,
The wall stops being an idea and becomes a sensation. It exists not only across hills and plains, but within muscles, joints, and breath. The Qin wall is built by hands that rarely pause to ask why. Farmers pulled from fields, prisoners taken from cells, soldiers reassigned from borders. They arrive not as individuals with stories, but as bodies that can lift, press, and repeat. The genius of the wall is not only in its scale, but in how completely it converts human movement into structure. Each worker learns the same motion: bend, lift, pour, raise the rammer, strike. The earth responds, it tightens, the body follows suit. Over time, the motion enters the muscles like a memory. Thought becomes unnecessary. This is how control travels downward, from imperial decree into tendons and bone. Qin Shi Huang does not need to be present. His will is already distributed through rhythm. The wall grows because the body forgets alternatives. This is the hypnotic center of ancient architecture, not inspiration, but exhaustion refined into obedience. Days blur, dust coats skin. The sun rises and falls without marking progress. What matters is not the length of the wall, but the continuity of the motion. Thump, thump, thump. In this repetition, something profound happens. The workers stop measuring time in hours and begin measuring it in layers. Another layer completed, another section hardened, another night slept beside the structure that is slowly replacing the open land they once knew. This is the cost of control, rarely recorded in stone. The wall offers safety to those behind it by consuming those beneath it. It promises silence by absorbing voices. And yet, within this consumption lies a strange form of escape. Not escape from authority, but escape from uncertainty. For many, the rhythm becomes shelter. When life is reduced to a single motion, fear has nowhere to expand. The wall, in this sense, is both prison and lullaby. It cages movement while calming the mind. This duality is what makes it endure. Empires do not last on force alone. They last by offering relief from chaos, even when that relief is built from sacrifice. As hands strike earth again and again, the landscape changes, but so do the people. Identity dissolves into function. The worker becomes part of the wall long before death makes it literal. And in this merging, we see the final evolution of escape. From drifting away, to resisting, to hardening reality itself so nothing needs to move. The Qin wall does not ask the world to behave differently. It forces the world to stop at a line. Rest here with the steady rhythm of labor. Feel how repetition quiets thought. This is how control lulls civilizations into believing they have mastered uncertainty, one strike at a time. At the center of the wall, far from the hands that built it, there is a man who cannot rest. Qin Shi Huang lies awake while the wind moves across the plains and the earth hardens into obedience. His empire is vast, measured, and increasingly silent. Roads align, borders hold, messages arrive on time, and yet sleep does not. Control has done what it was designed to do. It has reduced uncertainty in the world outside. But uncertainty has not vanished. It has moved inward. The emperor listens to the night, aware that walls can stop movement, but not time. His life is a sequence of completed tasks, conquests achieved, rivals erased, scripts standardized, measures unified. Each decision compresses the realm further into order, and still something presses back. Mortality, the one frontier no wall can cross. Qin Shi Huang understands repetition as well as any laborer. He has applied it to governance, to law, to architecture, so he applies it now to fear. Alchemists are summoned, elixirs prepared, rituals repeated with the same hypnotic regularity as the ramming of earth. Mercury shimmers in cups. Promises of longevity are whispered like lullabies. The emperor does not seek pleasure, he seeks continuity, a way to keep the system running without interruption. This is the final, most intimate form of control, not the shaping of land, but the shaping of fate. And here the pattern reveals its limit. Just as the wall requires endless labor to remain intact, the illusion of immortality requires endless belief. Night after night, Qin Shi Huang remains awake, surrounded by the very structures meant to protect him. Palaces echo, courtyards feel vast, silence grows louder than command. The emperor senses what all systems eventually reveal to their creators. Control stabilizes surfaces, but it cannot soften the core. The same rhythm that calmed workers now traps the ruler. Thump becomes heartbeat. Repetition becomes anxiety. Escape has completed its arc, from drifting away in haze to resisting through patience, to controlling through structure, and finally to confronting the one thing control cannot absorb: the body, time, endings. In this sleeplessness, history pauses. The wall stands, the empire holds, and the man at the center realizes that certainty, once achieved, does not bring peace. It brings stillness sharp enough to expose fear. Rest here, in this quiet paradox. The emperor who built to silence the world cannot quiet himself. And in that realization, the limits of control become clear. After the emperor's breath fades, the wall does not move. It does not bow, mourn, or reconsider its purpose. Earth remains compacted, lines remain drawn. Control, once set into matter, becomes indifferent to the hand that shaped it. This is the quiet power of structures built to endure. Qin Shi Huang's death ripples through the court, through the provinces, through the minds of those who feared him and those who served him. Yet the wall continues its patient work. Wind meets earth and turns aside. Hooves approach in slow. Distance is measured differently now. For those behind the wall, safety feels tangible, like shade in the sun. For those before it, movement feels constrained, redirected, watched. The emperor is gone, but the decision he made remains active. This is how control survives its creator. It becomes habit. Guards take positions that existed before them. Repairs are made by hands that never knew the man whose will initiated the labor. Stories change, administrations shift, but the boundary persists. Over time, the wall absorbs new meanings. It is no longer only a response to fear, it becomes an identity. Maps are drawn with it in mind, routes are planned around it, lives are organized by its presence. And with each generation, the original urgency fades, replaced by acceptance. This acceptance is the most complete form of control, not force, but normalization. The wall teaches people where to stop without speaking. It turns caution into custom. In this way, the structure succeeds where rulers cannot. It makes obedience automatic. Yet the wall also carries a quieter lesson. It reveals the cost of permanence.
Maintenance never ends. After the emperor's breath fades, the wall does not move. It does not bow, mourn, or reconsider its purpose. Earth remains compacted, lines remain drawn. Control, once set into matter, becomes indifferent to the hand that shaped it. This is the quiet power of structures built to endure. Qin Shi Huang's death ripples through the court, through the provinces, through the minds of those who feared him and those who served him. Yet the wall continues its patient work. Wind meets earth and turns aside. Hooves approach in slow. Distance is measured differently now. For those behind the wall, safety feels tangible, like shade in the sun. For those before it, movement feels constrained, redirected, watched. The emperor is gone, but the decision he made remains active. This is how control survives its creator. It becomes habit. Guards take positions that existed before them. Repairs are made by hands that never knew the man whose will initiated the labor. Stories change, administrations shift, but the boundary persists. Over time, the wall absorbs new meanings. It is no longer only a response to fear, it becomes an identity. Maps are drawn with it in mind. Routes are planned around it. Lives are organized by its presence. And with each generation, the original urgency fades, replaced by acceptance. This acceptance is the most complete form of control. Not force, but normalization. The wall teaches people where to stop without speaking. It turns caution into custom. In this way, the structure succeeds where rulers cannot. It makes obedience automatic. Yet the wall also carries a quieter lesson. It reveals the cost of permanence. Maintenance never ends. Vigilance must be renewed. Earth erodes. Cracks appear. The promise of total safety proves fragile, requiring constant attention to remain believable. This is the paradox inherited by those who live after the emperor. Control offers peace, but demands devotion. It quiets uncertainty, but replaces it with responsibility. The wall cannot rest, even if the people do. And so history moves forward under its long shadow, negotiating with the structure rather than questioning its necessity. Compare this to the forest after Teutoburg. There, nature reclaimed memory quickly. Here, memory is held in place by design. The difference shapes civilizations. One learns caution through humility. The other enforces it through boundaries. Neither is free from cost. As centuries pass, stone replaces earth. Repairs layer upon foundations. What began as rammed soil becomes myth, then monument. Travelers pause to admire what workers once endured. The rhythm of labor fades into legend. But beneath the admiration, the wall still performs its original task. It interrupts, it divides, it reassures. This is the afterlife of control. It persists quietly, shaping behavior long after its origin is forgotten. Rest here in the long continuity. Feel how structures carry intention forward without needing voices. The emperor has gone. The wall remains. And with it, the human desire to make uncertainty stop at a line. When walls have stood long enough, something subtle begins to stir on the other side of certainty. Control, once achieved, does not end pressure. It changes its direction. Behind the Qin wall, life becomes predictable. Borders hold. Seasons repeat. Fields are worked in relative peace. Yet within this safety, energy accumulates.
The same human force that once feared chaos now presses against stillness. The wall has succeeded in stopping movement across land, but it cannot still movement within the body. Muscles trained to labor continue to seek rhythm. Minds accustomed to obedience continue to seek purpose. This is the quiet transition that history often makes without announcement. When containment reaches its limit, civilization looks for release, not escape outward, but expression inward. We have seen this pattern before, though in different forms. Kings drifted into Haze to soften their crowns. Armies dissolved in forests when structure failed them. Empires hardened boundaries to freeze uncertainty. And now another response begins to take shape, a response that does not deny control, but complements it. Ritual, repetition given meaning rather than restraint. Somewhere far to the west, centuries earlier, another landscape felt this same pressure. Not plains demanding walls, but valleys demanding gathering. In Greece, where city-states balanced rivalry with shared identity, the answer was not to build higher barriers, but to create a space where conflict could be contained without being erased. The Olympic Games did not emerge from leisure, they emerged from necessity, a need to channel aggression, competition, and pride into a form that would not tear society apart. This is where our story is heading next. But before we leave the wall behind, notice how naturally this transition occurs. Control seeks release the way tension seeks breath. The wall stands firm, but life around it learns to move differently. Festivals arise, ceremonies multiply. The human body, once used only to build and defend, is allowed to perform, to compete, to be witnessed. Not in defiance of order, but in service to balance. This is the great lesson that connects our chapters. Pressure never disappears, it transforms. When escape numbs it, resistance redirects it. When control contains it, ritual releases it. The Chin Wall represents the height of containment. The Olympics will represent the art of controlled release. Both are responses to the same human condition, the inability to live indefinitely under unexpressed tension. As night settles over the wall, imagine the silence it enforces. Then imagine far away the sound of footsteps gathering, voices rising, bodies preparing not for war, but for contest. This is not contradiction, it is continuity. History does not swing wildly from one idea to another. It flows, adjusting its methods as the human spirit demands. Rest here at the threshold. The wall has done its work. Ahead lies a different answer to pressure, one built not from earth, but from movement, ritual, and shared breath.
Finally, let us drift away from walls and forests and into open sunlight. It is a warm afternoon in Olympia in the year 776 before the Common Era. The air shimmers with heat, and the land feels alive beneath bare feet. Forget the stadiums you know. Forget the crowds, the banners, the polished ceremonies. There is no spectacle here, only dust, olive trees, and time moving slowly under the Greek sun. This is where our long journey through pressure, escape, resistance, and control arrives at its final transformation. Here, release is not an accident, it is sacred. The first Olympic Games were not designed to impress. They were designed to resolve something that had been building quietly for generations. City-states that fought endlessly needed a pause. Finally, let us drift away from walls and forests and into open sunlight. It is a warm afternoon in Olympia in the year 776 before the Common Era. The air shimmers with heat, and the land feels alive beneath bare feet. Forget the stadiums you know. Forget the crowds, the banners, the polished ceremonies. There is no spectacle here, only dust, olive trees, and time moving slowly under the Greek sun. This is where our long journey through pressure, escape, resistance, and control arrives at its final transformation. Here, release is not an accident, it is sacred. The first Olympic Games were not designed to impress. They were designed to resolve something that had been building quietly for generations. City-states that fought endlessly needed a pause that did not feel like surrender. Men trained for war needed a way to expend strength without drawing blood. And so a simple idea emerged. One race, one straight line, one moment where effort could be witnessed rather than weaponized. The athletes arrive without armor, without banners, without names carved into stone. Their bodies are oiled not for beauty, but for function. Olive oil warms muscles, protects skin from sun and dust, and gives the body a quiet sheen that catches light as it moves. There is no shame in nakedness here. Clothing belongs to battle and status. This is something older, more honest, just human form meeting earth. The ground is dry. Each step raises a small cloud that hangs for a moment before settling again. You can smell smoke from sacrifices rising toward Zeus, roasted meat, burning fat. The scent drifts across the track, mixing with sweat and oil. This is not entertainment, it is ritual, a truce declared not by treaty, but by shared participation. For these days, spears are set aside, borders loosen, messengers travel safely. The pressure that once demanded walls now finds a different outlet. The body becomes the boundary. The race begins without ceremony. No signal horn, no anthem, just movement. Breath deepens, feet strike earth. The sound is simple and repetitive, almost meditative. Thud, thud, thud. Each runner carries not only personal ambition, but the suspended violence of his city. And as they run, that violence transforms. It becomes heat in the lungs, strain in the legs, a narrowing of awareness to the present moment. This is release at its most ancient, not intoxication, not domination, but exhaustion that leads to calm. When the race ends, there is no explosion of noise, just breath slowing, dust settling, the sun lowering slightly in the sky. Victory matters, but not in the way we expect. To win is to be seen by gods and men as fully present in one's body. To lose is not disgrace, but participation in peace. This is the genius of the ancient Olympics. They do not deny competition, they contain it. They do not eliminate conflict, they transform it into rhythm. After centuries of drifting away from pressure, hiding from it, resisting it, and hardening against it, humanity here chooses something else: expression, the release of stored tension through movement shared by all. As the afternoon fades, the track empties, footprints blur, oil darkens the dust where bodies once stood. Nothing permanent remains, and that is the point. Tomorrow, the cities will remember this pause. The wars will resume, the walls will still stand, but something has shifted. Pressure has been allowed to breathe. Rest here, in the warmth of this first afternoon.
The journey has brought us not to silence, but to balance. And in that balance, sleep finally feels possible. As the dust settles on the track and breath returns to normal, something invisible but powerful takes hold across Greece. It is not enforced by soldiers, walls, or fear. It is enforced by belief. The sacred truce, the Ekacheria, spreads outward from Olympia like a held breath finally released. Messengers travel along roads that only weeks earlier would have been dangerous. City-states that define themselves through rivalry agree, quietly, to pause. Not forever, just long enough to remember. As the dust settles on the track and breath returns to normal, something invisible but powerful takes hold across Greece. It is not enforced by soldiers, walls, or fear. It is enforced by belief. The sacred truce, the Ekacheria, spreads outward from Olympia like a held breath finally released. Messengers travel along roads that only weeks earlier would have been dangerous. City-states that define themselves through rivalry agree, quietly, to pause. Not forever, just long enough to remember something older than conflict. This is what makes the ancient Olympics extraordinary. They do not deny human aggression, they acknowledge it, then teach it when to sleep. Zeus stands at the center of this agreement, not as a distant god of thunder, but as a guarantor of restraint. To violate the truce is not simply a political crime, it is a spiritual one. And in a world where gods are woven into daily life, that distinction matters. Spears remain close, but they are lowered. Armor stays within reach, but it is not worn. Warriors walk the same roads as farmers and spectators, bound by a shared understanding that for these days, strength will be measured differently. This pause does something profound to the human nervous system. After generations of constant readiness, the body experiences what it feels like to unclench. Muscles trained for battle adapt briefly to stillness. The mind, so used to scanning for threat, narrows its focus to ritual, movement, and breath. This is not peace as an ideal. It is peace as a practice, temporary, fragile, yet deeply real. In this truce, we see the final evolution of humanity's relationship with pressure. When escape numbs it, resistance redirects it. When control contains it, release teaches it how to rest. The Olympics offer a shared rhythm that allows violence to discharge without destruction. Races replace raids. Wrestling replaces war. Victory becomes symbolic rather than lethal. The gods watch not for blood, but for form, effort, and respect for rules. And when the games end, something remarkable happens. The truce dissolves without resentment. Each city returns to its obligations, changed just enough to remember that conflict is a choice, not a constant. This memory does not prevent future wars, but it alters how they are understood. War becomes something that can be stopped, even if only briefly. As night falls on Olympia, fires burn low. Athletes sleep on simple ground. Spectators drift into rest. The land itself seems calmer for having held human tension without breaking. This is the gift of the sacred truce, not the elimination of violence, but its containment within time. Rest here, in that held breath. Let the world feel paused, not erased. Tomorrow, movement will return, but tonight, even aggression sleeps.
As the sacred truce holds and the night deepens around Olympia, attention turns inward, away from cities and gods, and toward the human form itself. In the ancient world, the body was never separate from meaning. It was not merely a vessel to carry thought, nor a machine to perform labor. It was evidence, proof of harmony or imbalance. And at the Olympic Games, the body becomes an offering, not a sacrifice of blood, but of effort. Each athlete steps onto the dust knowing that what he presents is not his strength alone, but the years of discipline, hunger, restraint, and repetition that shaped him. Oil is rubbed into skin slowly, deliberately. Hands move with familiarity, warming muscles, easing tension. The scent of olive oil lingers in the heat, mixing with dust and sweat. This preparation is not hurried. It mirrors the rhythm of prayer. When the body moves, it does so not in defiance of pain, but in conversation with it. Every strain, every breath, every tremor is acknowledged. This is not escape, it is presence. For generations, humans sought relief from pressure by leaving themselves, through intoxication, through conquest, through control of others. Here, something different happens. Relief comes from inhabiting the body fully, from accepting its limits and offering its effort without expectation of permanence. The Greeks understood that the gods did not require suffering for its own sake. They required sincerity. To run until lungs burn, to wrestle until muscles shake, to stand naked under the sun without armor or disguise. This is honesty. The crowd watches quietly. There is admiration, but not frenzy. Victory matters, yet it is secondary to form. A poorly executed win is less meaningful than a well-executed loss. In this space, pressure is not crushed or avoided. It is carried, moment by moment, until it dissolves into fatigue. And fatigue brings clarity. When the body is exhausted, the mind softens, thoughts slow, identity narrows to sensation, the ground beneath feet, the air entering lungs, the warmth of sunlight on skin. This is the oldest method of calming the human spirit. Long before philosophy named it, movement taught it. The athletes are not heroes in the modern sense. They are participants in a shared release. Their effort absorbs the tension of cities that wait beyond the hills. And when the contest ends, the body rests. Muscles cool. Oil darkens with dust. Breath becomes shallow and even. Nothing more is demanded. The offering is complete. In this moment, the ancient world touches something timeless. The understanding that peace is not achieved by eliminating struggle, but by giving it a place to go. Rest here in that simplicity. Let the body feel heavy. Let effort fade. Tomorrow will bring motion again, but for now, the offering has been accepted. After the bodies have rested and the offerings have been made, Olympia grows quiet again. The sun lowers, shadows lengthen, and the heat loosens its grip on the land. Dust settles back onto the track, filling the shallow impressions left by running feet. Nothing dramatic announces the end. There is no final spectacle. This is how the ancient world preferred its conclusions. Soft, unremarkable, almost unnoticed. And yet, something has changed. The athletes begin to leave, returning to the cities that sent them. The sacred truce will soon expire. Spears will be lifted again. Armor will be worn. Walls will continue to stand. But the memory of release travels with them, carried silently in muscle and breath. This is the quiet power of ritual. It does not erase reality. It reshapes how reality is endured. The Greeks understood that human beings cannot remain in a single state for long. Too much pressure fractures the mind. Too much freedom dissolves structure. Balance is not found by choosing one extreme, but by moving between them with awareness. The Olympic Games exist in that movement. They are not an escape from conflict, but a reminder that conflict can pause, that the body can exhaust aggression before it hardens into cruelty. As the dust settles, the land itself seems to exhale. Olive trees stand still. Cicadas resume their rhythm. Night air cools the skin. This calm does not promise permanence, it promises memory. And memory in the ancient world was one of the most powerful tools humans possessed. Long after the athletes return home, long after wars resume, the idea remains that even the strongest forces can be redirected, softened, given form. This idea connects everything we have seen on our journey. Kings who sought Haze to forget their crowns, warriors who used forests to dissolve legions, emperors who raised walls to still uncertainty, and now a civilization that chooses to let its people run, wrestle, and breathe together under the open sky. Each response arises from the same source, pressure seeking relief. The difference lies in how consciously that relief is shaped. As night deepens, Olympia becomes just another quiet place in the world. Fires dim, voices fade, sleep takes hold. And in this stillness, history waits. Tomorrow, someone will remember. Someone will tell the story again. And each telling will carry forward the same gentle lesson, that release does not weaken civilizations, it sustains them. Rest here as the dust fully settles. Let the movement slow. Let the mind follow the body into calm. There is nothing left to prove tonight. Now, as the night fully settles over Olympia, and the last embers fade into ash, the story grows quieter still. There is nothing left to build, nothing left to run, nothing left to defend. The dust has returned to the earth. The oil has soaked into skin and stone. The breath that once raced now moves slowly, evenly, without effort. This is the final state that history rarely records, but always seeks. Not triumph, not collapse, but rest. If we look back across everything we have wandered through tonight, a single human pattern emerges, soft but unmistakable. When pressure becomes unbearable, people search for ways to leave themselves. Kings drifted into Haze, softening reality when crowns became too heavy. Armies dissolved into forests, allowing chaos to swallow rigid order. Empires raised walls, attempting to freeze uncertainty in place. And finally, civilizations learned to pause, to release tension through ritual, movement, and shared breath. None of these responses were foolish, none were complete. Each was a step toward understanding something fundamental about being human. Pressure does not disappear, it changes shape. The ancient Olympics did not end war. They taught war how to wait. They taught violence how to sleep without dying. And in doing so, they offered humanity something rare, permission to rest without guilt. This is why the final image is not a victor crowned, but a track empty under stars. Not cheers, but cicadas. Not motion, but stillness earned through movement. In this stillness, the body remembers what it feels like to be safe, even briefly. Muscles loosen. The jaw unclenches. The mind stops scanning the horizon. This is not forgetting history. This is history completing a cycle. The same cycle repeats across centuries, across cultures, across lives. Work and rest, tension and release, struggle and surrender. When one half is denied, the other becomes destructive. But when both are honored, balance becomes possible. Tonight's journey has not been about indulgence or excess. It has been about relief, about the quiet human need to set down what we carry, even if only for a moment. As you rest here now, imagine the ancient world breathing with you. The forests still, the walls unmoving, the track empty. Everything that needed to be done has been done. Everything that needed to be held has been released. History does not demand your attention any longer. It has finished its story for the night. All that remains is the gentle rhythm that has always carried humans forward, from firelight to starlight, from effort to sleep. Stay here. Let the final breath deepen. Let the world remain paused. Tomorrow will come on its own.